Hello everybody, my name is Antonio Lamberti and I work as a product development engineer in a multinational company. In your job, no matter the role, you will face the fundamental importance of keeping track of deadlines and knowing the status of each project's activity. This is key to ensure that deadlines are met, to properly assign workloads, and ultimately to meet your customer requirements. The workplace today is so much project focused that you will need to do some basic project management activity even if you are not a project manager yourself. This is where one of the basic project management tools comes into play, the Gantt chart, a basic bar chart that illustrates project activities and deadlines. Sooner or later, you, like me, will feel the need for a basic Gantt chart that will allow you to track deadlines and to know the status of each project, so that you can assign workloads to you or your team properly. In this video, I will show you the best Gantt chart tool that I found according to my real-life work experience. If you start looking online, you will find plenty of Gantt chart Excel files or softwares, from basic to offering more advanced functions. One after another, I've tried and tested them in search for the perfect one that will fit my real-life needs. The requirements I was looking for in this basic Gantt chart tool were basically intuitive, clean and fast use, ability to share with others and export in PDF, and third, no monthly fee required. After testing all these softwares and charts, I had found no one that was meeting all these requirements, so I decided to create one by myself. What I produced is an intuitive yet effective Excel file that you can use to create Gantt charts for multiple projects. It is immensely helpful to me and my team every day, providing quick and relevant information in a visual way while requiring minimal input.
Let's see how this Excel file is structured. This file has 6 main sheets, which are the ones that you can see here on screen. Starting from the left, we have the setup one, where you can set things up. Then we have the two main ones, which are the intuitive Gantt, which is the one that you're going to be using most of the time, where the Gantt chart will be displayed with all the other data. Then there is the intuitive team sheet, where you can set your team, your human resources, and whoever works on your team. And then as last three, we have the first year calendar, the start year calendar, and the 2 following years. Now let's go straight into the setup sheet to see what we can do here. Now, before entering any data, you are reminded here to enable macros and also to enable iterative calculations in your Excel options. Now for the data. First, you want to enter the name of the Gantt chart, the title, global title. Then the number of projects that you need to track, for example 12 here. Project managers will most likely have a single project to track, while product developers, product managers or program manager will tend to have more projects, as they will have a project for each product version or application. The last thing to put into this setup sheet is the starting year to visualize the Gantt chart from. So, for example, here is 2018. This means that your timeline in the Gantt chart will be 2018 and the following 2 years. As for these 2 buttons here about design mode, we'll come back to these later. So now let's go to the intuitive Gantt sheet. As you can see, the global title and the time frame now appears at the top. A color legend is also present here. We'll see the colors on the timeline later. On the left rows there's the project area, project names and number appear here, while on the right side you will find the project timeline, while you can navigate via scrolling. Colors will appear in this area based on the project's input data. Also, a handy yellow line showing today's date appears. Anytime you can click on the Go to Today button to center the view on today. You can see that on the timeline you see progressively the year, the month, week number, and the first date, of course a Monday, for each week. I choose not to put days because the timeline will be excessively long, and also this is not a tool to manage daily activities. Also, you can read the exact date on the left. Let's see now how projects are structured. Each project will have many sub-activities, but for better visualization, at the start they are all grouped up. They can be ungrouped when necessary with a quit button. So what we see here now is just the global project row. On this row, other than the name, the project status appears. Now, as we have not entered any data, it says the project is in the ended status. We'll see later how it automatically changes. Going on with the global row line, we see other data. Among them, the owner column is the only one that will require a manual input. You can put the owner manually or you can just leave it free. All the others input are automatically calculated based on the project's sub-activities data. The columns here that automatically update are, on the other hand, the start and the end date or due date, the duration in weeks and days, as well as the percentage of completion. Let's see now how project sub-activities are structured by ungrouping the first project. Activities are in the gray rows. Each activity has its own milestone or due completion date in light red rows. Activities, together with their milestones, are grouped together under their relative macro phase. Macro phases, in dark blue rows, do not require input. Now, we need to input data for activities and milestones, gray and red rows. There are different ways one could want to input data. This is a feature most of the apps I tried were lacking. Let's see the cases one by one. I could want to input start and end date for an activity. Then I write the required deadline, which is given. At this point, in these columns, the duration in days and weeks appears, while the numbers that appear for the milestone represent the extra days and weeks that we have to achieve said milestone, according to our activity end. It's an indication of how much safe we are, considering that our activity could take more time than predicted. As last input, we choose the percentage of completion of the activity, which according to common project management strategies can only be 0, 50 or 100%. Basically, to be realistic, we just indicate if the activity has not started, it's in progress, or it's just finished. Another way we could like to input activities data is to enter a given milestone, then subsequently set a starting date, and lastly set a duration in weeks or days for our activity. Another variation is that when we have the milestone and we know how long an activity is gonna take, we could want to know when we need to start in order to finish that activity in time. So I can set the end date exactly as the milestone, and now the start date appears. Now about iterative calculations, remember that in the setup sheet I asked you to enable this option in Excel. This is because if you want a hassle-free input method, as you just saw, which is you can input start date and due date or due date and duration, etc., then you need to create circular references between the formulas. So just be careful when entering project activity data. For an activity that you already entered, for example start date and duration in days, then if you want to change it, you need to change the data that you entered, which is start date and duration in days. Otherwise, if you change your mind and want to enter, for example, start date and due date, then you can do that, but first you need to copy the formulas only from an empty project activity, for example. If you have no free rows close to you, you can just go to the bottom of the Gantt chart and copy the formula backup that you will find. So we have seen now the three cases that we could want to input our data. First, we can input start and end date. Second, we can enter start date and a duration, both in weeks or days. And third one, we can enter an end date for our activity and a duration. In these examples, the milestone or completion date was known. But if we are setting up a project schedule, then we are free to set activities or milestone according to our needs. Now, this is an example of what it looks like once you've set up some projects. By looking at this, you exactly know what and where are the next milestones for each project. You can visually see what's the closest, and you can also see the amount of extra days you have for each activity. If you want to know more details of a particular project, you can just click the left plus button, which ungroups the project, and you can see all its activities. Now let's talk about the ability to assign tasks to people. If we want to assign tasks, first we need to go to the intuitive team sheet and set our team. So here I will set up how many roles do I have in my team and how many people for each role do I have. You can just write them in the light blue boxes. Once you have set up your people of your team, you can just go back to the intuitive Gantt sheet where you can assign them to each activity of your many projects. At this point, if you scroll down, you will find the intuitive team composition table where you can find all of your people grouped by roles, and you can see on what projects each one is working. And this table is mainly used to see for each week how many tasks a person has been assigned to. You can also see on what projects a person is currently working on. You can also set weeks off for your resources so that you can see here in your timeline if you will have problem, for example in a vacation planning where you will have very few resources of a certain type. Now for the final part, let's see some tricks that you can do. If you want to export as PDF file, just highlight the area of your Gantt chart that you want to see and then use a virtual printer to export it as PDF. Secondly, remember that you can use the middle mouse button to freely scroll in this Excel file as its margins are limited. And lastly, for what I think is the most useful feature, it is sharing. If you upload this file to OneDrive, you can share it with the people of your team and use it as Office Online. So you can also assign them some projects to fill in, and I believe it is a tremendous advantage for you and your team to have this timeline ready and visually displayed.
To wrap up, this is the easy to use, quick and intuitive tool that I have designed. I find it extremely handy in my everyday job, and I think you will like it too. At the moment, I am offering this file as an additional reward for my Kickstarter campaign on a graphically designed mechanical engineering handbook. Feel free to visit the page if you want more information. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a great day.
About the design mode. You may have noticed that each project in the file has its own fixed layout. Of course, you may want to change it and adapt it to your needs. You want to customize it. So, if you want to do that, just go to the setup sheet and enter design mode. You just need to remember that if you are changing the activities of a macro phase, then you need to update the formula for the macro phase according to the new range. You will find an explanation here. Once in design mode, you can customize each of your own projects. So for example, let's say under this first macro phase I want to add another activity with its related milestone. I can just highlight the two rows, then copy them and insert them before the next row. So here I have another activity in my macro area. At this point I can just rename them as I wish, and once I finished I can exit design mode in the setup sheet and start entering data. You can also enter data already in design mode as it's shown here. Remember that you can also copy and paste a single activity if you like to have more activities for a certain milestone. For example, you want to split that activity in 3 parts like it's done here. And when you do that, you need to update the formula for the extra working days and weeks by referring it to the last activity that you have added.